Hello, and welcome to another B&T unboxing video. Today we're going to take a look at disassembling Super Nintendo controller. Open it up, see what's inside. So to do so, you're going to need a simple Phillips screwdriver. Unlike the cartridges and the system itself, Nintendo does not use special screws on the Super Nintendo controller. For this one, we're going to be using a PH0 screwdriver. You may be able to use a slightly bigger, slightly smaller, but you just want something that fits in pretty snugly. And there are 5 screws in the back, and you just take them out. If you have a magnetic tray, that will help keep your stuff organized, but it's not necessary. Once all the screws have been removed, just simply lift up on the back cover, and then you have the circuit board. A few things to keep in mind. The L and R buttons are just sitting there, so you want to, gently pick them up so you don't lose them. The spindle that the buttons sit on are also just loose. They fell into the circuit board a little bit, but you kind of just want to keep them off to the side so you remember where they're at. And then the pad that you click on, that also slides out on both of them. And then the button, the actual press that you're hitting, it slides down behind it, but it's on wires, so you don't have to worry too much about losing that. Then you take out the cable that zigs and zags, and we lift it up slowly. You don't want the buttons to all pour out. But here's what the pad looks like. And again, the L and R buttons are just kind of positioned in these grooves, and when you push on them, they click. And let's get that last spindle out. Alright, so here's the button layout of the Super Nintendo controller. And then we can just lift the pads out. This is the membrane that you're actually pushing on that's connecting with the controller. And then underneath are the buttons, except for start and select. They're just the rubber membrane. And if we take a closer look, we can see that this controller is actually designed for multiple regions. As you can see, it actually has lavender, green, yellow, purple, red, and blue. So it has the layout for both Super Nintendo and Super Famicom controllers. Written in English, which is kind of weird, but it's very neat. That if you want to make your own Super Famicom controller, you just need to get the buttons. Your controller will work, and you know where they go. Not only because it's labeled the right colors, but the notches will only accept the certain buttons, so you can't put them in the wrong spot. And that's how you disassemble it. Now, another thought would be, what if you want to add like a LED light to your controller? How would you do that? You got 5 volts coming into the controller, so you just need to tap into 5 volts and ground. And then there's triggers for each button, so you could actually set it up so that when up is pressed, a light comes on, kind of thing. Keep in mind, you do have a limited space in the controller, so you don't want to go crazy on how many lights you set up. There are a limit. But if you want to have a light turn on when the controller is connected, that's actually fairly easy. First, we'll take a look at the controller port. Okay, so this pin right here is your first pin. That's 5 volts. This last pin over here is ground. These two right here are not used on this controller. It's possible they're used on like the multi-trap or whatever. The multi-tap, not trap. It may use those 2 wires, but the standard Super Nintendo controller does not use them. So to test to make sure we're using the right pins for 5 volts voltage, I have a power supply, DC power supply, connected to the controller. As you can see, the red is positive and the white is negative. And that takes us over here. Alright, so this first one right here, pretty much right above where it says 5, is the 5 volt, and the one on the far side is ground. There's also ground in this corner, and this track right here that goes around the whole board it's also ground, so if you needed to, you could scrape the top coating off and use that, but if you're going for just a power on light, you could use that one. I was planning on using a much brighter LED, but the resistor I was soldered into it rusted off. Anyhow, so this light's not very bright, but it should give you an idea of what's going on if I can get it facing up. So you want to get on the first pin, and then the second pin, the last pin, first and last. Let's see if we can get a little closer. That's still a little not the best. Slide everything forward. Okay. So first and last pin. First one is 5 volts, and last one is ground. Almost forgot. You may be wondering how to put it all back together. So we'll go through and do that real fast. I'll just unplug the wires from the power wires, and we will reassemble the controller. First, you want to start with the top, or in this case right now it's the bottom, and you want to put in your pads. Slide them in, and then the little holes in the corner kind of helps line everything up, so it's not too much of a guessing game. And then they will only go in one spot, so this pad for the XY buttons, AB, has 2 notches, and it won't fit on this side with the directional pad, so it's not hard. They make it a little easy. And then you just slide this right on top, again lining up all the holes. The tricky part's going to be routing this. I may have to rewind the video to see how I did it. I think it's something like this. No, it's this way, then down, then back up. Okay. Then the trickier ones are again. Actually, this isn't too hard. You just got this little spindle, dowel, whatever you want to call it. Slide into these notches right here at the top. Then you want to get your little pads, the nib part facing out, and just drop them into the groove. Like that. And then you take your buttons. It's going to be a little hard because they say L and R on them. Okay, if we flip it over. Okay, so L's on this side. And R is on this side. And if you get mixed up, it's not that hard to fix. And these actually slide down between the button and the case. You know you got it all the way in when you have a little bit of that spindle sticking up. If the plastic button is flush with this metal rod, then it's getting caught on the side. And you just take the back panel and just work it on in. Like that. Alright, so then we take our screws that we have lying in our magnetic tray for convenience sake. Pile them up right here. It's going to be easier if you have a magnetic screwdriver, but not necessary. Put the screws in kind of halfway. Don't go all the way. You don't want to bind it up so that one screw's in too tight and one's too loose. So handful of turns, then move on to the next one. And then once all of them are in, we'll go through and tighten them up. And just go through and make sure everything's tight. You may need to squeeze the controller so the screw can, you don't really want this, because it's plastic, metal screw into plastic, you don't really want the screw to pull the case shut, you want to hold it shut. So you want to squeeze it shut and then tighten the screw down. It will prevent the plastic from breaking. And then you screw until it's snug. You don't want to keep, again, because it's plastic, you could break it. So just go until it's nice and snug. You feel resistance? Stop. And there you have it. How to dismantle and reassemble a Super Nintendo controller. Thank you for watching. Have a good night. Bye-bye.